Penguins are cute. You are cute. You are not a penguin. Stop the pregnant waddle, please. The pregnant waddle is like seen as this rite of passage. But while people just think like, oh, it's normal, or it's like kind of just a funny thing we joke about because your belly is getting bigger and bigger, it's actually really poor posture that's going to affect your pelvic floor. So today I'm going to talk about how doing the pregnant waddle is really bad for your pelvis and your pelvic floor, and what to do to fix it so that your pelvic floor is ready for birth. So what is the waddle? First of all, the waddle is like, it tends to be where you tuck your tail under a little bit and kind of push your hips forward. And so you end up kind of like dun, 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 like this weird walk. You know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to just Google a video really quick. But the pregnant waddle, your spine curves like exaggeratedly so. That's not a word. Because your center of gravity is shifting forward and your body's just trying to compensate and trying to figure out like how the heck to hold that big belly up. The problem is that in doing that, especially in like pushing the hips forward, you're pushing the pressure forward because there's pressure inside your body. You're pushing the pressure forward and potentially down. Things are out of alignment. So your pelvic floor is not going to be working right. And you're probably going to worsen your diastasis, or it's going to be really hard for you to resolve your diastasis, your ab separation after pregnancy. And potentially you're going to give yourself a prolapse because prolapse is a pressure issue. So and one thing I forgot to say, when you tuck the tailbone, take a look at the pelvic floor, and these muscles around the tailbone, when that gets closer to the front, to your pubic bone, you're shortening those muscles. And shortening muscles, just like if you have, I can't roll this up all the way, but like right now my bicep is long. And then when I contract, it gets shorter and it's tight. It feels hard, right? So your pelvic floor, like if you're in good alignment and your pelvis is kind of neutral, like I always say, think of it like a bowl of water. Don't let the bowl spill forward, and don't let the bowl spill back. It should be kind of neutral, okay? But if your tailbone is tucked under and your hips are pressing forward because you're doing the pregnant waddle, then all of a sudden your pelvic floor muscles are short and they are tight. And what do we not want for labor or for life in general? A tight pelvic floor. And that can also, you can be compressing nerves, so it can lead to something like lightning crotch or like stabbing weird pains and stuff. So it's just not good. Resist the pregnant waddle, please. What you should do instead is this. Focus on your posture in terms of stacking your ribs over your hips. So if you think about it, if these are your ribs and these are your hips, when you do the pregnant waddle, the hips kind of come forward and the upper back and shoulders tend to like almost lean back a little bit, which actually then gets you to hunch your shoulders forward because you can feel the imbalance. And so instead of them being misaligned like this, we want to think of ribs over the hips, or bringing the hips back over the heels, under the ribs. And I mean, I'm a yoga teacher, so we're doing mountain pose, we're doing tree pose, we're doing any pose. And I'm telling you, ground your feet into the floor. Feel your knees over your heels, your hips over your knees, your ribs over your hips, your shoulders over your ribs, and an invisible string pulling up the crown of your head. If you practice that, if you do yoga with me, you're already doing the work to resist the pregnant waddle and to help your pelvic floor. Because when they're misaligned, the pelvic floor can't function like that. And I talk about that in other videos. So once you've got the alignment, ribs over hips, you can learn to finally properly do Kegels. Because if you're over here, if your ribs are forward and your hips are forward and your ribs are back and your posture is all askew, there's no point in doing Kegels because your system isn't lined up properly to do them. But once you've got that alignment, you can do Kegels properly and you can relax your pelvic floor, which is a key ingredient to doing Kegels properly. So let me teach you one of my favorite techniques that you can learn today and start practicing right away. No materials needed. This is one of my favorite techniques for relaxing the pelvic floor. It's called Scrunch and Sound. So go watch that video next.